My worth and my unworthiness, my value fixed, my ransom paid at the cross. We come together tonight to rest in the shadow of the cross. We may be seeking forgiveness. We may be in need of a renewed relationship with God.
We may feel abandoned, even distressed by the silence when we beseech God to appear. Perhaps we seek reunion with the Spirit of Christ or with ourselves. What we know is that we rarely arrive here clothed in glory. There are no horns, no drums. There are no triumphant parades. There is only a crown of thorns, mockery, and a grief that has lasted generations. So we come together to mourn our sibling Christ, passing from this world to the next. We share in the sorrow of death and the unknown. We mourn with parents and friends, with community, and we mourn alone. Whether we are on the outskirts looking in or feel surrounded by a great love, we will pass this way together. You are welcome here as we gather together and continue to reflect on the meaning of the cross as we survey the wondrous cross together.
1, you may remain seated for When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, number 261.
this invocation this evening with a congregational response. Your response is, "Hear our prayers of grief and regret." Let's try that together. Hear our prayers of grief and regret. On Good Friday, we place ourselves as far from you as possible, God, and remember how we left you alone. Yes, you, who has never abandoned even the worst of us. And let the people say, "Hear our prayers of grief and regret." As you linger between palms and an empty tomb, we have done wrong to turn our backs on you. We ask forgiveness through our deeds, through generosity and action within our congregation and community, and let the people say, "Hear our prayers of grief and regret." We cannot rewrite the story, but we may add new chapters. We can strive to become people who would ask for your release, who would beg the authorities to grant you clemency, who would treat your teachings as the roadmap we've been searching for to lead us to radical compassion, and let the people say, "Hear our prayers, grief, and regret." We learn from this day. We must accept it as part of who we are and what we have done before we move on to new life. No one spoke for you. Now, we must speak for those who are despised. We must listen to those who have been suppressed, and let the people say, "Hear our prayers of grief and regret." God, hear these prayers of grief and regret. Let us now turn them into action. Amen. Our readings tonight will include a verse each time we have the opportunity from the traditional hymn, "Were You There?" Some of the words will seem different because they are, but you have to trust that they work within the melody that we're familiar with. And I've asked Ruth and Eric and Wendy to assist with the readings tonight.
While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd with swords and clubs, from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him." At once he came up to Jesus and said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus said to him, "Friend, do what you are here to do." Then they came and laid hands on Jesus and arrested him. Suddenly one of those with Jesus put his hand on his sword, drew it, and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back into its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once send me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled, which say it must happen in this way?" At that hour Jesus said to the crowds, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as though I were a bandit? Day after day I sat in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But all this has taken place, so that the scriptures of the prophets may be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled.
No, it's number 283, but we're going to sing "Were You There When Someone Betrayed My Lord?"
Someone betrayed my Lord. Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, in whose house the scribes and the elders had gathered. But Peter was following him at a distance, as far as the courtyard of the high priest. And going inside, he sat with the guards in order to see how this would end. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for false testimony against Jesus, so that they might put him to death. But they found none, even though many false witnesses came forward. At least 2 came forward and said, "This fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and build it in 3 days." The high priest stood up and said, "Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?" But Jesus was silent. Then the high priest said to him, "I put you under oath before the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." Jesus said to him, "You have said so. But I tell you, from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has blasphemed. Why do we still need witnesses? You have now heard his blasphemy. What is your verdict?" They answered, "He deserves death." Then they spat on his face and struck him. And some slapped him, saying, "Prophesy to us, you Messiah. Who is it that struck you?"
Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard. A servant girl came to him and said, "You also were with Jesus, the Galilean." But he denied it before all of them, saying, "I do not know what you're talking about." When he went out to the porch, another servant girl saw him, and she said to the bystanders, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth." And again he denied it with an oath, "I do not know that man." After a while, the bystanders came up and said to Peter, "Certainly you are also one of them, for your accent betrays you." Then he began to curse, and he swore an oath, "I do not know the man." At that moment the cock crowed. And then Peter remembered what Jesus had said, "Before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly.
Came. All the chief priests and the elders of the people conferred together against Jesus in order to bring about his death. They bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. When Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, he repented and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. He said, "I have sinned by betraying innocent blood." But they said, "What is that to us? See to it yourself." Throwing down the pieces of silver in the temple, he departed, and he went and hanged himself. But the chief priests, taking the pieces of silver, said, "It is not lawful to put them into the treasury, since they are blood money." After conferring together, they used them to buy the potter's field as a place to bury foreigners. For this reason, that field has been called the field of blood to this day. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of the one on whom a price had been set, on whom some of the people of Israel had set a price, and they gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord commanded me. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You say so." But when he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he did not answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many accusations they make against you?" But he gave him no answer, not even to a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. Now at the festival, the governor was accustomed to release a prisoner for the crowd, anyone whom they wanted. At that time, they had a notorious prisoner called Jesus Barabbas. So after they had gathered, Pilate said to them, "Whom do you want me to release for you, Jesus Barabbas or Jesus who is called the Messiah?" For he realized that it was out of jealousy that they had handed him over. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, "Have nothing to do with that innocent man, for today I have suffered a great deal because of a dream about him." Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus killed. The governor said again to them, "Which of the two do you want me to release for you?" And they said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "Then what should I do with Jesus who is called the Messiah?" All of them said, "Let him be crucified." Then he asked, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Let him be crucified."
So when Pilate saw that he could do nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took some water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves." Then the people as a whole answered, "His blood be on us and on our children." So he released Barabbas for them, and after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around them. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. And after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spat on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. After mocking him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him, and they led him away to crucify him. As they went out, they came upon a man from Cyrene named Simon. They compelled this man to carry his cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull, they offered him wine to drink, mixed with gall. But when he tasted it, he would not drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided his clothes among themselves by casting lots. Then they sat down there and kept watch over him. Over his head they put the charge against him, which read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then 2 bandits were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests also, along with the scribes and the elders, were mocking him, saying, "He saved others, he cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel? Let him come down from the cross now, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God, let God deliver him now, if he wants to. For he said, 'I am God's son.'" The bandits were crucified with him, also taunted him in the same way.
Darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. And about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani." That is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "This man is calling for Elijah." At once, they ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. But the others said, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him." Then Jesus cried again with a very loud voice and breathed his last. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in 2 from top to bottom. The earth shook and the rocks were split. The tombs also were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. After his resurrection, they came out of the tombs and entered the holy city and appeared to many. Now, when the centurion and those who were with him, who were keeping watch over Jesus, saw the earthquake and what took place, they were terrified and said, "Truly, this man was God's son." Many women were also there, looking on from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee and had provided for him. Among them were Mary Magdalene, and Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who was also a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus, and Pilate ordered it to be given to him. So Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn in the rock. He then rolled a great stone to the door of the tomb and went away, as Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there, sitting opposite the tomb.
Oh
Why are you so far from saving me? So far from my anguished groans? My God, I cry out during the day, but you don't answer. Even at nighttime, I don't stop. Whenever we encounter distress, let us bring light.
See me, hear me, hold me safe. You are the Holy One enthroned. You are Israel's praise. Our ancestors trusted you. They trusted you and you rescued them. They cried out to you and they were saved. They trusted you and they weren't ashamed. But I'm just a worm less than human, insulted by one person, despised by another. All who see me make fun of me. They gape, shaking their heads. That one was committed to God, so let God plan a rescue. Let God deliver, since this one was God's favorite. Whenever we witness bullying, let us bring light.
You, the Holy One, raise me up that I may recommit myself to grace. But you are the one who pulled me from the womb, placing me safely at my mother's breasts. I was thrown on you from birth. You have been my God since I was in my mother's womb. Wherever a child of God finds safety, let us bring a light.
Parent me now with gentleness and compassion. Please don't be far from me, because trouble is near and there's no one to help. Many bulls surround me, mighty bulls from Bashan encircle me. They open their mouths at me like a lion, ripping and roaring. I'm poured out like water. All my bones have fallen apart. My heart is like wax. It melts inside me. My strength is dried up like a piece of broken pottery. My tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. You've set me down in the dirt of death. Whoever is suffering, let us bring light.
Please do not be far from me, though I was born alone, and I may die the same. Be by my side through every stumbling step. Dogs surround me. A pack of evil people circle me like a lion. Oh, my poor hands and feet. I can count all my bones. Meanwhile, they stare at me, watching me. They divvy up my garments among themselves. They cast lots for my clothes. Whoever are victimized and alone, let us bring light.
May surround me and snap at my heels, God, but I trust in you to guide me to gentle them. But you, God, don't be far away. You are my strength. Come quick and help me. Deliver me from the sword. Deliver my life from the power of the dog. Save me from the mouth of the lion. From the horns of the wild oxen you have answered me. I will declare your name to my brothers and sisters. I will praise you in the very center of the congregation. All of you who revere God, sing praise. All of you who are descendants of the story, give honor. All of you who are all offspring of human struggle, stand in awe. Whoever is threatened by word or weapon, let us bring light.
But you, Lord, stay near through every day. Though sorrows may abound, you comfort me. Because you didn't despise or detest the suffering of anyone who suffered, didn't hide or turn away from me, but listened when I cried out for help. I offer praise in the great congregation because of you. I will fulfill my promises in the presence of those who honor God. For God is the source of hope. Let us bring light.
God will not despise our suffering. No. God rejoices in our softness as in our resistance. God soothes us in grief and clarifies our joy until both are honed as tools of resistance and liberation. Let all who are suffering eat and be full. Let all who seek God offer praise. I pray your hearts live forever. Every part of the earth will remember and come back to God. Every family among all the nations will worship you, because the right to rule belongs to God. God rules all nations. Indeed, all the earth's powerful will worship. All who are descending to the dust will kneel. My being also has come alive, for God is love and abundance. Let us bring light.
Let all who are suffering hear this. God will not abandon you. God will be in the hands and feet of those who ease your pain, and in the earth that provides for you, and in the path that spreads out before you when you least expect reprieve. Future descendants will serve God. Generations to come will be told about God. They will proclaim God's righteousness to those not yet born, telling them what God has done. For God brings reconciliation, and with it, justice. Let us bring light.
Future descendants look to us and ask, where did you find God when the world became wild? We must remember then that God is in our hearts and on our hands, and in those that have been abused and abandoned. God is in the shadow of the cross, when its power to change us all, with its power to change us all, if we pause to hear the pain and respond with love. Continuing in the spirit of prayer. God, we have turned away from the pain of this day, who jumped straight from the glory of palms of the celebrations to the celebrations of resurrection. We must be called to remember. You are the grief, you are the loss that haunts us, not just on this day, but throughout our lives. You are in the faces of the parents whose children have been pulled from cars or out of their beds to be slain, and in the homes that have collapsed, caught fire, or washed away. You are in the fear walking through grocery stores, movie theaters, parades, and schools, an eye out for a weapon that may transform normalcy into death. You are in the desperate families fleeing oppression, violence, and unrest, and you are in those who stay to fight, and yes, also in those who cower to survive.
Bodies, and in children from whom life is the ultimate struggle. You witness the mask worn by those without privilege, the rage for those without representation, the guilt in those who know they can't or won't or haven't done enough. But you are also in the crumpled bills tucked into the hand of one with a damp cardboard sign. You are in the decision to use restorative justice over juvenile detention, in mental health services instead of mistrust. You are in the enthusiasm of the young who show up to vote, to protest, to bring the reckoning to the feet of the oppressors. You are in the small square plots of garden tucked between high-rises, and in the hands of those who are turning back to simpler ways to live on this earth.
You are in the stories of hope, even on this day. Even when you were denied and beaten, thrown to the bitter crowds, and left to die, still you are present in our highest love for community and justice. You who must have felt forsaken on that cross have never turned your back on us. You are here when we seek you. You are here when we need you. You are here through whatever has happened and whatever may come. In a stable or in a temple, in a ship in the storm, or reaching out to the lepers, in an upstairs room or a lonely garden or a prison cell. Even when you are strung up, seemingly out of reach, you are here.
Are not alone. We may call out, feel forsaken, burn with pain. We may be given more than any one person should have to handle, and still we are held. Remember, though, this day and all days to pause. There may be a cross you could carry, a verdict you could overthrow, a hand to hold. God is with us, in us, and acting through us this day and forevermore. Amen.
As lights go out and candles dim, we grieve a darkened world. Kneeling down before you, sometimes praying without words, longing for redemption's plan to finally unfurl. We sit in darkness Lord will stay with you while shadows chill, until you save the world. As lights go out and candles dim, with tears our vision blurred, we sit in silence, wait in hope until you save the world.
Tonight is a somber night. Probably people wonder why. It's called Good Friday. It's because it's God's Friday. We continue in a somber feel and in a somber tone. We will have an offering, but we are not going to offer praise to God for the doxology tonight. We feel like that's probably not appropriate for this particular service. So we will have our offering, and then we will pray the prayer to dedicate that offering, and then we will continue with part of the song. presence in this place as a balm, let us dedicate this offering, pray together. Great giving God, as we remember all that Jesus gave in his living and dying, we consider how we may do our part in giving of our own lives, whether it be in the monetary sense, with our time, or with our talents, knowing that all good things come from you, O God. We present our gifts to you, that you might bless them on their way to doing good and making a difference in the lives of those whom we serve. Receive these gifts with your blessing. Amen.
84 for O Sacred Head, Now Wounded.
We go from this place carrying the cross. We go from this place bearing the burdens of loss and grief, because we know Sunday's coming. His time was over, the bones lay where they fell. As they ate together, he told his friends farewell.
Amen.